In a chamber where egos clash like thunder in a summer storm, what if one envelope held the key to silencing the biggest talker in the game? Just 36 seconds into the frenzy, Trump pounded the table with his fist aimed a sharp finger at Jasmine Crockett and barked out, "She's low IQ. I dare her to step up and take a test." Cameras flashed like fireworks on the fourth. The crowd drew in sharp breaths, but Jasmine stayed cool as ice. She reached into her briefcase, pulled out a sealed envelope, and let it drop with the weight of a final score. What hidden bombshell inside turned the ultimate braggart stone silent, like he had just stared down his own worst nightmare? Picture a room desperate for real talk after years of spin polished up, like a Hollywood set ready for the next blockbuster lie. The marble floors gleamed like fresh ice on a rink, bouncing back every shadow of doubt. Walls shone so bright you could catch a glimpse of your own second thoughts in them. Flags hung stiff and straight behind the action starched like they were scared to flutter. The vibe felt rehearsed, way too cool and clean, like they had sucked out the heat, but left the chill of unease hanging heavy. Red lights on the mics winked like warning signals on a dashboard. Ceiling beams did not light up the place they drilled down, bright and merciless, built to expose every flaw, every nervous drip, every tell from a fast-talking hustler. This was not just Capitol Hill. This was primetime drama central. And the lead act today, a force who owned the spotlight without saying a word. What if every step echoed like the countdown to a game-changer? Jasmine Crockett strode in, like she had rehearsed this plot twist 100 times, but with the intensity dialed up to 11. Her heels did not click softly, they hit hard like strikes in a ninth-inning rally. Each footfall timed like a clock, ticking toward not a blow-up but a big reveal that would flip the script. No flashy outfits or big smiles here, just a deep blue suit cut sharp enough to slice through the BS and a stare steady enough to freeze a Wall Street tycoon's swagger cold. Jim Jordan caught her coming in first, nudged Eric Trump, and whispered something that sounded like locker room trash talk, half chuckle, half nerves, all cocky vibe. Eric twisted around, eyed her up like she was crashing a family barbecue, and shook his head no. Already holding court at the witness spot was the Orange Storm himself, Donald J. Trump. Elbows down, fingers laced, grin stretched wide. The kind of grin that screamed, "This turf is mine. The lights are mine. The story is mine." He did not tip a nod her way, did not even blink. Just locked on as she passed like a coach trying to psych out the one player who ignored his trash talk. But Jasmine, she held firm without a hitch, brushed off the glare completely. She sat without a sound, opened her files like starting a Sunday strategy session, and set one plain envelope right in the middle. No tags, no rush, just simple paper and quiet. But the moment it touched down, the energy shifted like static before a lightning hit charged and ready to spark. CNN zoomed tight. MSNBC cranked the sound. Online buzz was building fast toward a meltdown. IQ test was blowing up trends even before anyone said it out loud. Chairman Len cleared his throat like calling a foul. This meeting dives into school record honesty in political hype and how tests fit into leading the pack. He skipped eyeing Trump, but everyone else did not. Jasmine tapped that envelope once. Just once, not hard, but it landed like a referee's whistle. Trump's smile dipped for a split second. Nobody else spotted it, but she did. And when a guy like Trump backs off first, you do not yell. You sit tight and let the setup close in on him. What happens when trash talk runs smack into unbreakable calm? The quiet wrapped the room so heavy it felt like extra gravity pulling down. Not the peaceful sort, but the kind right before a Midwest tornado touches ground. Trump leaned in closer to his mic, squared his shoulders like expecting a standing O, and kicked off his prepared lines on fixing schools. But he barely got traction. Hardly threw a bit on bringing back top American grades before his gaze flicked to Jasmine and the mood twisted sharp. He paused, flashed a smile, not the charming type, but the one that winds up like a pitch. "And let us be real," he started, voice smooth as oil on a garage floor. "Some folks in here do not cut it for this level. I mean, check her out." His finger lifted, aimed her direction like a hidden jab. Low IQ. Basically, AOC Part 2. Would not hand them a school bell, forget running the show. That was the first hit, blunt and planned, fuzzy enough to dodge a flag until the replays broke it down. A light laugh rippled from the right side. Marjorie Taylor Greene's snort cut through high and smug. She half covered it, but her shoulders gave it away. Jim Jordan smirked wide. Eric Trump kicked back like a kid beaming at Dad's home run. Republican helpers tried hiding grins, but the moment stuck. They figured they had her rattled. But Jasmine Crockett did not budge, did not blink, did not grab for the mic. She just held position cool and collected one fingertip light on that sealed envelope, like it was a button she might or might not push. Inside her mind, the roar was louder than any speaker setup. They are gunning for anger, she thought. The fired-up moment they can clip and spin. I will hand them something stealthier, a curveball they never see coming. Trump riding the wave pushed harder. You know I have nailed tough IQ checks. Not open to just anyone. Takes real smarts. His grin pulled wider. Crushed them with top marks. That is why I am in the hot seat and they are scrambling. He skipped the chairman. Skipped the cameras. Zeroed right on Jasmine. Then with the same bold style he used for dodging hits and dishing pardons, he dropped it. Let us sort this with an IQ test. 8 words, all it took. 8 words to ping-pong across feeds in seconds flat. 8 words to crack the room like a bad swing at bat. 8 words that would circle back to bite him hard in under a day. The pressure broke. Reporters widened eyes. Phones shot up. Breaths caught like wind in a cornfield. And still Jasmine did not lift an eyebrow. She just shifted slightly, raised the envelope a touch, and slid it an inch nearer the mic. The move was soft, but it hit like a grand slam. Trump overlooked it too, caught up in the mess he thought he owned. But mess, Jasmine knew, bends easier to hard facts than to noise, especially when those facts come wrapped in clean white paper. And tucked in there, a fact 31 million folks were not geared up for. Not right then, but they would be, because Donald Trump had just picked a fight with the wrong player on the field. What if a single packet could topple a tower of tall tales? The crowd had not bounced back from the dig. Trump lounged like a boxer, thinking he had the knockout in round 1. Eric smirked close by scrolling his screen, probably watching the clip trend on X already. Jim Jordan leaned to Marjorie, who scratched bold notes on a yellow pad with a thick marker. Everyone assumed Jasmine Crockett took the punch and stayed down. But Jasmine leaned polite and steady toward the clerk area. I would like to bump my questions to the end of this round, she said. Her tone stayed even. No need to crank it up. It was the kind of steady that shifts a space slow and sneaky, like pressure dropping before a hurricane. The clerk paused a beat. The chairman held. After a long second, he gave the nod. All set. Nobody made a peep. Nobody asked the reason, but a few eyes narrowed just a hair. They felt the change. Just could not pin what it was. At the same time, 2 from Jasmine's crew slipped quiet through the back halls like shadows on a mission. One carried a black leather case, the other a flat brown envelope, thick but locked tight. On top, in faded old-school type 4 words hidden from light for over 60 years, confidential 1,964 admissions. Jasmine felt it land without looking. No point. The instant it hit the table behind her, she sensed the load not in her grip but in her core. The pull of the past has its own beat. She reached back, tucked the envelope under her stack, and let her fingers rest, like holding back a story itching to break free too soon. Across the way, Trump kept rambling, drifting on about failing schools and folks who miss what the country needs. The words boomed big, but they lost punch. Not where it counted because Jasmine tuned him out. She tuned into an old memory instead. Her dad, a city teacher who never cleared $42,000 a year, once said over kitchen supper, "The riskiest thing you can haul into any spot is truth wrapped quiet." She was 9, did not get it back then. Now it was her playbook. She smiled subtle, not showing teeth but showing smarts. The kind a strategist flashes before a small move traps the king 3 steps out. The chairman called a timeout. Chairs dragged, keys tapped. Security shuffled. Trump stretched and joked on wasting time with lightweights. But for the first time since she walked in, he avoided her glance because deep under the brag and spin gut feel told him she was not done. Not by a long shot. And she was not holding notes. She was holding dynamite. The kind that stays hush. The kind that blows wide open. But what was sealed in there, enough to make Donald Trump wish the spotlights had gone dark? When does stillness signal the storm about to break? The feel in the room switched up, but nobody could nail the exact moment. No loud bang, no soundtrack or yells. It was like air before a thunderstorm rolls in, turning leaves inside out and hushing the birds. Something moved, and it flowed from Jasmine Crockett's chair. She had not said a thing since Trump's blast. Not one word, not one look. But her quiet now carried real weight. She had locked in the last question slot, and nobody pushed back. Like by staying silent, she had grabbed the mic and it snuck up on them until too late. Cameras picked it up. CNN pulled in close, catching her expression in the mix. That look hard to read was not mad. It was locked in like watching a fuse she had lit herself. Even the studio host stumbled. Looks like Congresswoman Crockett is saving something big. We are sticking with her view. Outside, the chatter built like electricity in the air. NBC pinged an alert. Jasmine Crockett holds off on comeback, chooses to go last. Headlines popped up fast. What is she holding back? Crockett got an ace up her sleeve. Quiet play or master plan. Inside, she stayed rock solid. Just sat with her files front and center, fingers deliberate, wrapped loose around a pen still capped. Every so often she checked her watch. Not for time, for the pulse, like matching her breath to a rhythm nobody else caught. A few seats over, Marjorie Taylor Greene finally muttered to Jim Jordan, "She is shook." Nothing in her hand. Jordan nodded, but it lacked punch. His eyes kept sliding to Jasmine's files, to the packet hidden under. Trump had gone from cocky to showy, talking bigger, wider, tossing self-pats like candy at a parade. Honestly, folks, this has been one of my best outings. Nobody even tried to step up. His voice bounced off the marble like a bad echo in an empty stadium. We all know who belongs here and who does not. But Jasmine was not watching him. She was scanning the crowd, noting who laughed, who shifted uneasy, who looked away. She was not there to scrap. She was there to let the line run out until it snagged tight on its own. One of her team leaned in low and quick, slipped into the side hall, and passed a small sign, a nod, a fast phone check. Jasmine read it once and slid it aside. No reaction. The last bit was in place. The paper checked out. The source was solid. Time was close, but not yet. Let him keep grinning. Let them all chuckle. Because traps hit hardest when you do not spot the ground under you. And Jasmine Crockett was not waiting out of fear. She was waiting because when truth lands for real, it is not a cheer. It is a shakeup. And this spot had no clue how near the break was. What if a knock at the door kicked off the end of an era? It came low-key, just a light tap on the side entrance. One of Jasmine's team stepped through, holding a plain manila folder tucked firm under arm like info too hot to flash around. Nobody clocked her at first. That was the magic of perfect timing. In a place hooked on noise, silence cut deepest. Jasmine held off, looking up. Waited until the team member stood right behind her seat, then reached back, not in a hurry but spot on. Her fingers closed on it like not just paper but a spark ready to ignite. And buried in her thoughts, her dad's words came back strong. The biggest threat you can bring anywhere is truth in disguise as a whisper. She said it under her notes, careful and cool, like adding to a regular stack. But it was far from regular. It was the closer built from weeks of holding back a signed statement, 2 deep checks, and buy-in from a guy silent in public for 58 years. The name on the docs was blacked out, but Jasmine knew it cold. Robert Steedman, old school buddy from military days with Donald J. Trump, face lined tough from time, but memory sharp as ever, in a 2-hour sworn chat with Crockett's legal squad. He had sat the SAT for Trump back in '64 and kept the proof. Inside were 2 sheets. One, a dated note from the New York Military Academy office, confirming Trump's test slot and his no-show without word. The other, Steedman's sworn words penned clear and steady. Fred Trump paid me $1,000 to take the SAT for his boy. Under that, the sign-off, and below it, backups like old Army papers handwriting, matches a scanned card from a vet's hospital room. Jasmine scanned it again, though she had it memorized. Every line burned in her veins. This went beyond IQ talk now, beyond big egos. It was about a fib so old, and buried deep its truth felt like old folklore. And here it sat quiet under her hand. On the flip side, Trump kept yapping, boasting how he owned every test every time. How some people just do not stack up for the big leagues. His words hung like background static, empty and looping. He had zero idea the foundation was cracking under him. Jasmine did not cut in, did not even twitch, because the setup was locked and loaded. And when she spoke next, It would not be a comeback. It would be a takedown. What if steady nerves could shatter a myth in slow motion? The room fell back into its groove, but Jasmine was not riding the wave. She was there to steer it. Trump, loud and locked in, was handing her every tool on a platter. The chairman called her up for questions. She rose easy. No rush, no show, just pinpoint moves. She stepped to the mic with the same fire she brought to court battles, not to holler, but to break it down piece by piece. Mr. Trump, she started, voice level, almost soft. In your earlier talk, you called yourself a rock-solid genius who always crushes tests. That right? Trump grinned, big chest out with pride. Spot on. I have always killed it on tests. Some of the highest numbers ever. Not just IQ, SATs got me into Wharton too. Jasmine nodded slow, letting the quiet wrap his words like a noose. And you have gone public with your school wins plenty, right? Top of the pack graduate. For sure, he shot back. Ask anybody. Killer grades. Wharton was all over it, teachers blown away. The room stayed hushed, but the air turned knife sharp. Jasmine's eyes held steady. Mind sharing those files openly, sir? Your SAT numbers, college papers, since you tossed them into the mix. Trump laughed it off. No problem, nothing to hide. Been saying it forever. Glad to put them out. They back up every word, flew through with top colors. Everybody knows. Around the room, Age traded quick looks. Marjorie stopped her notes. Even Jim Jordan leaned in a bit, feeling the squeeze, but Trump missed it. Too busy on the cameras. Jasmine kept her face straight. Thanks for that confirmation, Mr. Trump. Because right here, her hand patted the files, lights still shut, or papers tied to your test passed. Trump blinked once quick. Not scared yet, but a crack in the front. You would not object, she went on, if this group checks them against what you said today. Yeah, Trump shrugged it off. Dive in. What I said stands. It will just prove it. The bait was set, and Jasmine had not even lifted her tone. She turned to the chairman. Mr. Chairman, with your okay, I will add these to the record after we wrap testimony. He nodded without a word. Trump leaned back all smug. See, transparency like I promised. But he missed her subtle shift, the energy building for the next play. He thought she would come swinging wild, thought she would hit quick. That was his game. But Jasmine Crockett was not punching. She was carving deep. He expected a fight. She let him build his own trap. The quiet was not empty anymore. It was loaded up. What if faded ink could roar louder than any rally chant? Every camera zeroed on Jasmine Crockett as she eased open the files in front. Her hands moved with doctor precision. No big show, no hurry, just control, like she knew cracking that seal would pull in a whole new pull. She slid out one old letter from its cover. Paper edges yellow like aged newsprint typed with a light mark showing through the words. Held it up short, then placed it careful where the lenses could grab every detail. She held off speaking at first. Let the build-up stretch tight across every back in the house. This, she said, even as an official note from New York Military Academy, dated May 10th, 1964. Trump's head tipped a fraction. A flash crossed his eyes. Memory or fear in disguise. Jasmine read it out. This confirms Cadet Donald J. Trump skipped his booked SAT on May 2nd, 1964. No reason given, no makeup asked. The lines hit like a slap across the face. A couple reporters sucked in air. Chairs creaked. Jim Jordan blinked hard. Eric Trump quit tapping his pen, and Marjorie Taylor Greene let her notepad slip. Trump burst out laughing too loud and too fast. That is junk. Never went down like that. Perfect scores all the way. Check with anyone, Jasmine skipped, responding. Just reached back into the files and grabbed a tablet. One touchscreen lit speakers popped. The room swung to the display like eyeing a rare comet. On it, a weak man in a hospital bed, slim and pale, but eyes clear and sharp. He looked straight at the lens with years of weight in his gaze. Name is Robert Steedman, the man said. Back in '64, Fred Trump handed me $1,000 to take the SAT for his son Donald. The place went dead still. Even Trump went quiet. Steedman kept on, voice solid. My scores were stronger. Got promised a break, put on his uniform, signed his name, did the test, kept it under wraps for 58 years. Trump blew up. That is fake spin. Guy is not real. He slammed his hand down. Mix jumped. Face went deep red. Never ditched a test ever. Total setup. Hunt for witches. But Jasmine stayed steady, stepped away from the mic. The guy you say is made up, she said, got backed by 2 federal checks, a handwriting pro and a protection expert. His words are signed, stamped, and now in the official books. Trump jumped up, hands balled tight. Get that off the books. Cannot stick it in there. Chairman Len leaned forward. You spoke under oath, Mr. Trump. She just brought the backup. The watchers quiet before now buzzed like a kicked hive. But Jasmine did not stir it up. She sat back down. The trap had snapped, and she had not even raised her pitch. It was the sound of power coming undone. Is panic the first crack in a falling house of cards? Eric Trump's voice cut through like a crack in glass. Kill the stream. Kill the damn stream, he shouted half out of his seat arms, waving at the closest tech guy. This is against the rules. You cannot put this out. His words shook not strong, but rattled like a guy seeing the end too early, but the red light stayed on steady. CNN held firm. MSNBC turned it up louder. Jasmine ignored him. No need. The proof was already pumping through the moment, no fix for it. Marjorie Taylor Greene popped up like her chair was on fire. Mr. Chairman, she yelled, finger shaking at the screen. Wipe it from the logs. This is a hit on character. Against the basics. Chairman Len kept cool, leaned to his mic like reading from stone. All under oath stays in the books. His tone even but final, including the signed statement and checked words from federal teams. Trump hit the table again. Fingers went pale. This is a trap. She is full of it. I want a counter witness. It is all made up. I never. But he was sinking fast, stuck between rage and the kind of scare a man gets when the exits lock and the flames are real. Cameras stayed locked. Writers typed like it was a showdown. In every big network control spot, bosses whispered, "Do not switch off." Behind Jasmine, her team passed another paper smooth and quiet. No flash. Straight strategy. Jim Jordan bent to Green, low voice. We need to drag this out. Call for a rule break on time. But time slipped away from them. Jasmine spoke up. Steady, firm voice of someone who knew the place was on fire because she sparked it. Mr. Trump, she said, you offered up your school stuff. We just checked what it always was. Trump boiled chest rising hard under his suit like a storm barely buttoned in. She kept going. You tagged me low IQ, called others out of their depth, but I did not need to yell. I brought the real deal and let it stand on its own. Green snapped her book shut. Jordan's grip turned his knuckles white. Eric dropped back, legs giving way. Malen banged once sharp and lone, like a starter pistol. This goes on as planned, he said, and without proof against it, Mr. Trump best to stay put. But Jasmine had more in the tank. Not done. Because what she dropped was evidence. What came next was the why. What if one truth exposed the hidden cost for generations? The chamber dropped into a silence so full it turned into its own noise. Not calm, not honor. Something raw and stunned that spread like buildup before an earthshake. Donald Trump sat locked fingers drawing worried loops on the wood, hunting for a way out that was not there. Marjorie quit her scribbles. Jordan arms crossed tight. Eric stared low, not from regret, but no place left to look. They had sat through countless stories before, but nothing close. Nothing that roared without volume and still split the ground under them. At the heart, Jasmine Crockett held perfect still. No mic tweak, no paper shift, no jacket fix. Her quiet was not doubt. It was the call. Then tone, unchanged volume, even she said the line that froze the place solid. This is what you tagged low IQ. Truth on the stand. The words landed harder than the proof itself. Because they were not loud, they were exact, they were earned. Because every soul there recalled how Trump had mocked her, spit those terms like dirt on his boot. Folks across the land, and now here she was still sharp, still together, holding a paper that rattled the base of his whole image. She did not chase payback. She had the facts. Nobody stirred. Nobody cut in. Chairman Len blinked slow, cleared his voice, glanced at the clock, not for hours, because even he skipped meeting her eyes for a beat. Jasmine turned the envelope to the side and slid it under her notes. Slow and on purpose, not to bury it, but to clear space for the next layer. Because this was not the wrap. It was the bridge to more. She was not just there to show he faked it. She was there to spotlight who footed the bill. One more set of papers waited under her hand. Not worn yellow like the first. fresh and clean from someone full of dreams, until snatched by cash, a deal, and a con. Jasmine said nothing else. No need. Holding back had already done more damage than any outburst ever could. How can one forgotten name spark a nationwide wake-up call? Outside, the news scroll screamed, Jasmine Crockett takes down Trump with 64 sat facts. Congresswoman turns IQ slam into on-air shutdown. The Hill hears the deepest quiet in today's politics. Inside that space, nobody drew breath because they knew more was coming, and they knew it would shift from Trump to the kid who never got his shot. The story wiped clean so Trump's could take the page. But that was not even the sharpest cut she brought, because the next name in her stack was not Donald Trump. It was the student who paid the price for his scam. She waited until the quiet sank deep, until even the cameras quit flashing and just listened. Then, with the same steady that cracked Trump's front, she reached into the files again. But this round, it was not Trump's name she pulled. It was someone nobody in that room had ever heard of. Someone who never held the Oval, never hit a debate stage, never threw shade at a lawmaker on live feed. Elliot Harmon, she said, voice lower. Now more pinpoint. A black kid from Queens, same school apply, same year, same area. His SAT on official books hit 1420, way over the admit average back then, and miles above Mr. Trump's real number, which we now know he never earned. A soft buzz rose in the room, quiet but cutting. Reporters shot looks. Something about the everyday name long buried hit tougher than any jab, because this turned personal, not just politics. Jasmine went on, lifting a second paper and holding it screenside. This is a note dated June 11, '64, from the Wharton admit team at University of Pennsylvania, sent to Elliot Harmon. She read each word like dropping pebbles in calm water. Dear Mr. Harmon, sorry to say, your apply did not make the cut. With so many in the pool, no spots for backups this cycle. And she paused. Her eyes ran the page to the last hand-scribbled bit at the bottom. A side note not for Elliot to see, but left by the signer. Quotas maxed out. Too much risk. The words smacked the chamber hard. No big inhales this time. Just held air. Malen moved in his seat. AOC eased forward slow. Jim Jordan looked floorward. Even Trump strangely hushed, tightened his eyes, but stayed silent. Jasmine laid the note flat out front. He was 17 class topper, son of a bus driver and a school nurse. Applied ahead, hit all marks, but turned away. Her voice held steady, but it landed heavy with loss. He never grabbed a redo, never claimed a spot at the table, because someone with pull-deep pockets and no real scores had already taken it. The truth's weight did not just linger in the room. It built a divide right through. Not red or blue, just a barrier of silent wrong, hard to deny, and ice cold. And Jasmine stood on one side, gripping a name dust-covered for 60 years. But the note was only part of it. And what Elliot Harmon did after would change the whole game. What if a family's pain could outshine any political stunt? Jasmine stayed wordless. No point. The name had done the heavy lift. Elliot Harmon was no longer just a line on a no-thanks letter. He was a split running through the room's base, and the quiet after weighed more than any slam. She tapped her tablet twice. The wall screen flickered, then showed a soft shot of a woman on a beat-up leather couch. Hands locked, tight eyes already shining wet. The text overlay said Danielle Harmon, daughter of Elliot Harmon. Her voice shook before she even started. My dad, she said, breathing deep, carried that hurt his entire life. She looked down, wiped her nose. He never brought it up straight, not with me, not even Mom. But anytime Ivy League came up, he went quiet. When folks asked his big dreams, he would just say timing was off. A tear rolled down her face. She let it go this time. Did not swipe it. Dad should have been in corner offices, teaching halls, running things in D.C. But he drove a city bus in Queens for 32 years, and he did it with class, with heart, but never real ease. The room stayed frozen, every face glued to the screen. Jasmine's eyes stuck on Danielle, not once shifting. The clip moved to sound only. An old, scratchy audio from a voicemail on Danielle's phone, left months before Elliot passed. Audio rough, but his voice deep and worn was clear as day. Always figured I fell short, Elliot said. Thought maybe I missed a step. Could be the essay. Or they did not like my picture. Had no clue, they never even looked at me. Danielle's voice came back softer, cracking now. He left this world without the full story, without knowing he measured up that he was plenty, that his chance got swiped before he could claim it. The screen went dark. No tune, no voiceover, just that quiet again. This time packed with sadness, packed with names like Elliot left out of stories penned by guys who never deserved the ink. Jasmine rose slow. The files were shut now. The books were clear. She swept the room. Every eye met hers. Nobody dared turn. My dad, she said soft, was a teacher. He told me once that lies are like long shadows. They grow the more you let them run free, but hit them with the right beam just once, and they vanish. She rested her hand light on the shut files. That is what this day is, a beam for one guy who lost his shot and for every other name they tried to bury with him. Trump sat without a twitch, lips pressed, hands locked, no snaps back, no grin. Because even he got that you cannot trash a shadow that just stepped into the room and spoke through his kid. But Jasmine had not wrapped it. Because sometimes shadows do not just talk. They call for payback. What if one takedown sparked a fire that spread coast to coast? No matter if you were grabbing a bite in a Nebraska spot, teaching in a New York class, or resting in an Atlanta home, screens lit up with the same frame. Jasmine Crockett, still as steel, set against the hearing backdrop, locked in shock. Then the talk exploded. Not from experts or suits, from everyday people. First on X, then TikTok, Reddit, Instagram clips. Thousands of posts flooded online in real time, piling up by the second. The line kept looping like a chant without a leader. She laid it all bare. Some typed with heat. Trump shelled out to snag a spot. Crockett delivered the proof. Elliot Harmon's name will hit history books someday, thanks to her. Others shared with heartbreak. My old man tried for Wharton in 70. Thought he did not cut it. Passed away believing that. This cracked something open in me. Been called too bold or not sharp my whole run. She did not yell, but she lifted us all. Late-night hosts even hit pause on the laughs. Conservative spots, usually locked in echo, showed splits in the walls. One hot thread said, "This feels less like politics, more like a turning point." News anchors raced to catch up. CNN ditched the talkers and let the tape run solo. MSNBC replayed Jasmine's line on loop. This is what you called low IQ truth on the stand. Fox tried to swerve, throw shade, but the raw feel in the room, the real heart, made even tough spins crack and look weak. Inside the chamber, the energy had flipped. Gone was the strut, the jabs. Even the marble felt heavier underfoot. Trump stopped twitching. Saturday, too, still jaw set, ear tips flushed. Marjorie Taylor Greene kept hands folded, notes ignored. Eric Trump fixed on the floor like wishing it would swallow him. And Jasmine Crockett. She did not flinch. Let the quiet hold firm. Let the world absorb what it had overlooked for years. Chairman Len moved toward his mic. Voice low. Congresswoman Crockett, anything more to add? No, wait. Jasmine reached slow into the files again. The first batch stripped a lie. The second brought back a life, but now she lifted a thicker set than the last two. A fresh folder stamped, not in old fade, but bold red, classified from the U.S. Education Department. Two signs partly blacked, but the mark stood out clear, and its heft hit before a word dropped. She set it flat on the desk. Fingers rested easy on top. And though cameras could not catch her eyes, the signal was loud. This went past Trump. This hit everyone who let him slide. Just when the country thought the depth hit bottom, Jasmine lifted the second folder. Jasmine said nothing as she placed the second folder down. No need yet. The moment's pull had already changed the air. Thicker now, heavier, like the oxygen swapped for something electric and sharp. Trump watched her hand with growing freeze. Eyes jumped to cameras, to the panel, back to her fingers. The man who packed stadiums with volume now sat in a seat that felt too tight for his sudden hush. He knew she was about to crack open something he could not shut. Jasmine flipped the latch. Inside, a printed college record, laid out, neat-looking, official, with the University of Pennsylvania seal. The same one Trump's team had floated quiet in 16 and pushed again in 20 speeches. It listed scores, classes, awards, even a sign-off. He had hyped it on shows, flashed it in chats, let it hang on screen long enough for fans to nod, impressed, and rivals to back off. Jasmine slid the page under the projector, and then with cool control she spoke. This is the school record Mr. Trump's team has pointed to over and over since 16. Says it shows his Wharton wins. She paused, let that sink a beat. We ran it by 2 outside checkers and a file keeper from University of Pennsylvania. She turned the page slow and sure, and here is what turned up. She tapped the screen once a close-up of the record popped. In the first term, a class called Business Strategy with an A misspelled. That class was not around in '66. Still is not. A stir ran through the panel. Reporters sat up. Even Mlen leaned closer. In the second term, she kept on a course named Global Economics of 4, something Wharton files say never ran at any level. Back then, Wharton only had Economics 1 on offer. Gasps shattered the room like breaking glass. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh, Lord." And last she said, voice locked with intent at the bottom of the page. Next to the registrar seal, the name of the checker is spelled wrong. The real one, Dr. Leonard Wexler, used 2 E's. This has 1. He swore under oath he did not sign it. Trump's eyes went wide, not in panic, but hunting a way out, but none showed. The walls closed in, not with force, but with cold, hard info. Jasmine stepped back. This paper got used to backup runs for the top job in the land. Shown to voters, quoted in talks, passed to press. No doubt about it, a fake. Trump half rose. This is a setup job, a cheap trick. But his voice broke. Jasmine held steady, folded the page slow and tucked it back, then looked right at the cameras. He did not just fake a test. He faked the degree, the backstory, the whole self he sold. And what followed would rattle every ballot he ever pulled. The folder back on the desk shut, but the buzz it left stuck to the room like charge before a strike. Nobody talked, not even Trump. He had not sat full, had not moved. Just hung there half ready, caught in deny and dread. Jasmine turned a touch right and nodded once. A side door swung open. A tall guy in gray suit walked in, deliberate briefcase underarm, like a tool primed for the job. Dr. Eli Brenner, record checker pro, retired prof advisor to 3 Ivy setups. No need for intros. His background was already in the books. His being there now for the lenses. Jasmine motioned to the seat next. Dr. Brenner, she said, calm. Can you walk this panel through what you found on the paper? Mr. Trump's team put out as Wharton proof. Brenner opened his case, pulled a marked sheet, fixed his glasses. Yes, he said, voice, even academic chilly. On checking the record in play, my group spotted several odd bits that scream fake. The big one, though, not alone, is the font across the whole thing. He paused. Jasmine guided him. The typeface on the record headers and registrar part uses Garamond Premiere Pro, a style that came out in '89. The room did not gasp this time. It just froze. That font, he went on, was not around in '68. Not on type machines, not in school print rooms, not in any standard papers of the day. Trump squirmed, then snapped. So now fonts are part of the game. Brenner did not flinch. We also saw spacing glitches and pixel weirdness in the school seal, he added. Points to the seal image grabbed from a new digital file, likely a PNG slapped on a blank sheet. Not normal for real records and flat out impossible back then. Jasmine leaned in just a hair. Not for drama, for clean cut. Dr. Brenner, in your pro view, is the paper real? No, ma'am, it is a fake. She turned toward Trump but skipped his eyes. Looked to the cameras instead. Sir, she asked, is faking your IQ worse than faking codes for the big red button? The question dropped like a floor, giving way under load. Nobody said a thing, not a stir from the group. The space full of brag before now, dead quiet, like every person waited for the next breath to drop first. Trump stayed mute because any answer would hang him. Jasmine sat back, face blank. The paper was bogus. The font not born yet. The guy who mocked others as unfit had never even qualified for his own story. And beyond the walls, millions started asking if he faked his history, what else got cooked. Dr. Brenner's words had not even settled when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez leaned to her mic. No need for volume, just sharp aim. Her voice sliced the thick quiet like a blade. This is not about smarts, she said, each word weighed and solid. This is about lies as a power play, about a guy who built a fake merit badge and used it to grab the nation's top spot. Her point did not hunt cheers, did not seek nods. It just sat there heavy and fixed. Jaime Raskin followed, tone cold and court-like, a hammer of frost. Madam Chair, he started, I move to send these findings to justice for a full criminal look on school fakes, as a way to trick campaigns and lie on quals under oath. He skipped eyeing Trump when he said it. No need. The word fake was already out on air. Now it was on file. Trump slouched like a building about to tip. Mouth cracked open short, but nothing came. Fingers fidgeted at the table edge, pulling at nothing. The man who owned rooms with jabs and noise now stranded in his own quiet trap. And all the lenses knew it. Jasmine did not shift. Stayed locked, still face carved from control. No wind flash, no fire, just being there. She turned no move into command, quiet into center stage. And the country felt it. In homes from coast to coast, channels stayed put. Folks leaned in closer, did not swipe away, texted buddies. Flip this on now. Behind Jasmine, her crew moved fast but low-key. No mess, no rush, just smooth work. Papers handed to the chair, dates, marked items listed. The session turned from show to scorecard, every Trump tall tale logged and stamped live. In the media row, fingers flew on keys. Screens glowed sites, fired up headlines shaped before the words wrapped. Fake locked in charges, flying breakdown in play. And still Jasmine had not cracked the last file. Not needed yet. Not while the space echoed from the bomb just dropped. Because next was not about who Trump was not. It was about who he always went after. That low IQ tag was no slip. No offhand. Planned on purpose, rooted deep in bias. Jasmine clocked it the second it flew. She had seen that move before, but held patient on point. And now, with the whole land holding breath, she was set to show why that tag was no mistake. It was a habit. Jasmine Crockett kept her voice steady. No point raising it. The space was already hushed, gutted by the drop. And now she was primed to twist the knife, not with heat, but with proof. She picked up a small clicker and hit play. The screens lit, then rolled on their own. First Maxine Waters. The cut jumped midline. Trump growling at a rally stand. She is a real low IQ type. Crowd laughed, then AOC, low IQ. Does not seem to get it. Cheers. Then Ilhan Omar. Total mess. Not sharp. Low IQ. Laughs grew. And then Jasmine. The roll hit Crockett's IQ. Maybe keep to small claims. The stretch covered 7 years. 4 women, 4 hits, 1 same tag. When the screens went black, Jasmine waited. 1 count, 2. Then stood. Her voice did not climb. It dug in deep. To bone. To right and wrong. Every time he spots a woman of color dropping truth, this is his go-to move, she said, stating fact, not charging. He skips the debate, goes for the put-down, skips the counter, goes for wipeout. Her eyes swept the panel, then the flashing lenses. It is not just talk, it is routine. Trump sat like stone, no more bold, no more jumping in. Hands linked but tight with white knuckles shaking. Jasmine spoke past him. You said it was about brains, she pushed. But brains do not scare you. Being held to account does. Outside the walls, posts exploded, like sparks in dry grass. Tags bloomed. Fear habit and low IQ loop. Anchors cut mid-show to jump back to the hearing. Older viewers leaned forward in easy chairs nationwide, mouths half open. Because now it went past fakes. It was habit. Power stacked on repeat, quiet, kept by old ways. Marjorie Taylor Greene twisted in her spot. Matt Gaetz tapped his pen like a clock. And still no pushback. No yells for time because Jasmine did not accuse. She showed. AOC from the side gave a tiny nod you could miss. Rashida Tlaib blinked firm but held words. What Jasmine pulled off was not a beatdown. It was a breakdown. She took the tag meant to shrink her and turned it into a mirror. Now it bounced off every surface. She turned back to the panel. Words matter, especially when they get dressed as jokes and sealed with claps. And especially when they get reused on the same crowd over and over. She did not ask for pity. Never did. But in that beat, she was not just for her. She pulled into light every shady spot where shrinking folks was the plan. And for the first time, millions saw the layout, the habit, the system. But what Jasmine held back was why Trump dropped that tag that day and what he aimed to pull eyes from. The room skipped breaths. Not because rules said so, but because it forgot how. After the tag reel and the cool pick-apart of years-old talk, no fake news cries, no scoffs, no last gasps. Trump sat fixed, not graceful, but a misstep in planning. The hit came from calm, not fire, and that threw him. Jasmine stood without sheets, without jots. Just her, the mic, and millions of eyes blinking behind the glass. She leaned forward a touch locked on the lens like staring down the whole country. I do not need to back up my smarts, she said solid and cutting. He had to tear it down because it is the one thing his cash could not snag. The quiet after was not gone. It lived. It bit. Trump moved in his seat for the first time in minutes, no hideout left. The playbook he expected where she blows up, shouts, trips, burned away. Jasmine torched it, then rewrote with facts. She spoke not from anger, from recall. He slapped low IQ on me. Same as Maxine, same as Ilhan, same as AOC. But real talk he does not mean not smart. He means hard to handle. She paused long enough for the words to settle deep. Means not in his pocket, not scared, not shut up. Somewhere in row 3, a CNN hand mouth. Good Lord. MSNBC's alert banner popped live. Phones hummed in every pocket from sea to shining sea. In Florida, retire spots and Detroit high-rises seniors inched closer to screens, not just seeing, but feeling a shift untouched for years. Jasmine's tone dipped lower near a whisper, but somehow heavier. He got handed wealth. I got handed a battle, she said. He bought his rep. I built mine. And when he saw he could not wipe mine with a cheap shot, he tried to shrink it with a fake. Trump's face red with fight, before now pale, with what he would not name fear. Not of error, of getting exposed by someone who did not need volume to get heard. Nobody broke in, not Jordan, not Green, not the chairman, because it went beyond a line. It was a settle-up. Jasmine drew one last breath and stared straight at the camera again. Label me whatever, but truth does not wait for your okay to be, and neither do I. She stepped away, presence hanging like smoke after a strike. The chamber, the land, the world all held still, because deep down everyone knew the tag was not about her brains. It was about his echo. What if cheers turned into the roar of change, denied too long, the quiet split? Not from mad, not from block, but from a sound nobody bet on in a Capitol sit-down. One clap, then another building, slow to a rumble from the seats like thunder rolling in. Grown folks stood, vets, teachers, a judge, long retired with wet eyes. For the first recall in that space, the walls rang not with side fights, but with something close to truth catching air. Jasmine Crockett did not dip her head, did not grin, just backed off and let the wave roll through her like breeze past rock. Marjorie Taylor Greene looked around steaming and stuck, not sure to fight or fade. Jim Jordan hid behind a mess of papers, acting like he was reading. Trump stayed put. From row 2, the NAACP head stood not as fighter, not as Paul, but as seer. Madam Chair, he said loud, though not called. That woman there, he pointed, soft and full of respect. That woman voices the era history tried to mute. She is not a side note. She is the now. Cheers built again, louder this round. Writers quit notes and just watched. On MSNBC, Rachel Maddow said low, I have covered tons of these, but never one that rewrote a nation's feel live. Across feeds, Jasmine's lines got looped, shared, cut into fan vids. But in that room, none of it hit for her, because Jasmine did not show for the claps. Not for lenses, memes, history-making buzz. She showed for the weight. She showed for the books. She leaned to her mic once more, cool, exact, held together. Thanks, she said. But I am not through. The cheers eased, then stopped, like a band following an unseen cue. This goes beyond one jab. This is habit, and habits bring fallout. Her hand reached slow into the files still on the table since the start, unmoved, like a locked judgment waiting. One more set, one more sheet. Her fingers held on it. Then the line. Hushed, cutting endgame. She did not come to beat one guy. She came so the past would note someone who stood tall and never bent again. She was not shutting a file. She was kicking off a legacy. No need to amp the voice. After the facts, the hush, the notes, the fakes, the standing cheers, Jasmine Crockett circled back to the start, tapped her mic light. The room held air. Then with the same pinpoint calm she had held, not for hours but a lifetime, she said it. You told me to sit, genius. Her tone lacked bite. It was exact and check. The phrase bounced in the chamber heavier than when first tossed, like a low blow at a press huddle. She did not waver then and held steady now. She turned right, lifted a sign no bigger than a notepad, not showy, not overdone, but held high letters like etched in rock. Article 1, Section 6, United States Constitution. For any talk or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned elsewhere. The room went pin drop. Jasmine turned it cameraward, then slow swept it to the GOP side of the panel. This, she said, tapping the words, is the rule of the game. This is what I pack for every round, every hit, every mutter that says I do not fit. Trump shifted in place. She looked him square. I did not sit, she said, voice low and measured, because I was not standing solo. I stood for every woman told she was too loud, too fired up, too black, too extra. I stood for every girl who saw her mom bite her words in spaces not built for her say. I stood for what is real. The quiet after was not blank. It was loaded, heavy buzzing, like right before lightning hits. Outside the chamber, feeds lit wild again. Tags blew up. TikTok spun. A CNN voice mouthed wow on open mic. Inside, Trump crossed arms tighter. No comeback, no smirk. Just the freeze of a guy seeing the joke turn back on him. Jasmine lowered the sign easy, like ending a flag at day's close. Nobody figured she would last. Her eyes scanned the room one more time, not to scare, not to boast, but to make sure all eyes saw when truth would not back down. And with one breath left to spend, she shut her notebook and said, I give back my time, but never my value. He said nothing. No last dig, no final twist. Donald J. Trump got up from his chair like the ground turned on him and walked out under cameras that once ate up his every move. His steps echoed off the marble like empty boasts. For the first time in ages, the room did not chase his lead. CNN broke the hush first. The banner hit like a church bell. A rep shaken in a Capitol clash sends ripples nationwide. Anchors sat eyes wide and wordless, then leaned in as the tape looped. Jasmine Crockett, steady as rock, holding the Constitution like a shield against might. She did not yell, one anchor whispered. Did not have to. On X, the moment grew huge. By hour 2, Sit Genius passed 4 million hits. By hour 4, over 12 million. Kids remixed the clip. Vets posted thanks. Even comics held off jokes. One image just showed Jasmine standing firm with the line broke him without a touch. But beyond the screens and clips, something deeper moved. Jasmine's lines jammed by noon. Team Red males out loud hit with quiet. An 86-year-old retired teacher from Birmingham wrote, got told to sit in 62. Seeing you hold ground made me feel like I stood at last too. A nurse from Detroit mailed a card that said, you did not just call him out. You made my girl think she can. On streets, art popped up. Jasmine's outline was sign high painted on an Atlanta church-side Oakland school gate Philly court wall. Under each, the words, never give up my value. In the Capitol, the flow changed. Reporters leaned closer to black women in office. Eyes that skipped Jasmine before now tracked her down every hall. Her quiet did what no hot clip could demanded, a fresh kind of notice. Born not from flash, from cannot deny. While the other side hustled statements, spun releases, huddled in panic talks, Jasmine sat solo in her spot, rereading a note from a 14-year-old girl in rural Kansas. Inked in blue, it said, plain mom says, smart girls stay quiet. You showed her different. Jasmine folded it, slipped it in her case, and breathed out for the first time that day. Not from ease, from gear up. Because what went down was not a close. It was the kickoff to a bigger wave. Capitol lights faded in the mirror as Jasmine's car pulled into a simple Dallas lot. No stages here, no shiny floors or blinking reds. Just hard pavement Texas heat in the 90s Fahrenheit and the low buzz of a local office smelling like fresh copies and tough grit. Jasmine stepped out still in her hearing suit, now like gear that beat the odds. The door barely closed when tiny steps rushed in. A young black girl, 7 at most, dashed through the front with pure spark and wrapped arms around Jasmine's waist. Her voice wobbled, but eyes lit fierce. I want to talk like you one day, she said. Like a promise, not just nice words. Jasmine knelt, brushed a hair strand from the girl's face. You already do, she whispered. You just have not seen it yet. The girl nodded like she trusted it with her whole self. Outside, a small group formed, not press, but locals, elders, teachers, cleaners, kids. Folks once told to pipe down, Hold on, take a seat. Now they stood, some with blooms, some with notes, most with just their stand, silent but loud as thunder. Back in her space, Jasmine locked the last file, the fake record, one in a drawer. No more need. Truth was off the page now. It moved in millions of spark minds. She stood at the window as sun dropped low, throwing gold lines over the lot. For years, they tried to brush her off, talk over, box her as a type, mocked her words because they carried clear she could not buy. When that flopped, they tried to doubt her mind, hoping questions would dim it. Did not work, never would. Because that mind was not just hers. It was every girl told not sharp enough. Every voter tricked by suit flash. Every teacher who hung late to tell a kid books can snap locks. They aimed to quiet one voice. And in the try-cleared space for 1,000 to rise. When Jasmine picked stand over Ben quiet before the nation, she showed smarts do not need stamps. Just guts to hold when others try to fade you. And when that young black girl hugged tight, the country saw itself in that beat. Ever held quiet, not scared, but holding truth strong enough to shift it all. Share with us. If this tale hit home, do not just pass by, like, share, and sign up for Mr. Truth Stories, where voices like Jasmine show truth does not yell. It holds ground. Hit the bell, because the next part might not just call out a fake. It might wake something in us all. What piece of Jasmine's hold still rings for you? Drop a note. Let us not just see history. Let us push it on. This pumped-up tale draws from real fights and real folks. All players and lines are made up for thought and learning. Not meant to slam or trick, but to spark, think, and get folks involved. Thanks for tuning in. Truth is not done. It is just waiting for bold ones to carry it ahead.